We are live.
Woo!
Very cool. So I know we'll hop right into things real quick. I'm just checking to see if we got a notification.
Yes.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
uh,
Sweet.
awesome, Abby. Thank you for joining. So my name is Lavall Chichester. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at JumpCrew, and Abby's here. I'm going to let Abby introduce herself.
Hello, I am Abbey Keane. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships at JumpCrew, which is really just a very fancy way of saying I'm in charge of new business development, new sales, finding new customers to join our crew.
Right. And so what JumpCrew is we do outsource sales and marketing for our customers, and we wanted to talk about stress and anxiety and how to manage those especially in this pandemic, because on the marketing side there's a certain level of stress because this is the life we chose. We signed up to do sales and marketing, but specifically for salespeople, like my heart goes out to them because the amount of stress to that you have to, and anxiety that you have to manage for carrying a book, right? So you have quota, you have deadlines you have to meet, you have and you have a timeline, end of month close, like all of these things. It's a constant state of stress and being anxious. And I think so. Abby and I are here to sort of talk about both sides of the coin. So from a marketing standpoint, and from a sales standpoint, because it's different, but it's important that we address both. And one of the reasons this chat came about was based on a traumatic experience that happened to me in the past. And the main point about that is that stress is an absolute killer, right? And it could really come at you at in the most unexpected ways. And if you don't develop the tools and the processes and the routines and the mindset to know that, one, to accept it, like this is a thing that happens, right? Two, to sort of, and in my case, I was sort of like big ego, where it's just like, stress, bro, whatever. You could tell me that stress is is a killer, and it's dangerous and you have to take care of it, but whatever. I fight bare knuckle karate. I'm an advertising guy, and we can walk through walls, right? So like with that, and I feel like it's a similar thing probably on the sales side. So you sort and in your youth, you think you're invincible, but one day it'll catch you, because we're all just human. No matter how
Yeah.
great we think we are, we're all just human. No matter what you've accomplished in your life, we're all just human. So if you're not taking care of your mind, like you take care of your body, it's not going to work out well for you. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Lavelle, I love it's so great to hear it put like that. And I like what you were saying earlier on when we were chatting about this, because the way that you just put it is it's something that you have to build a toolkit up to be able to fight in battle, and I think that it does, it's something that you have to practice at and be disciplined on. And everybody's stress manifests in different ways. And there's best practices that work for some people, but don't work for others. But I think just like the front up acknowledgement of the fact that yes, this is something that we all have to work at, and just I think that awareness alone is such a helpful step in the right direction. And I haven't thought of it in that way, where I'm like, oh yeah, this is something that I have to build a toolkit on, right? Like I have my sales playbook, I have my processes around sales methodology that have helped me become successful in that sense. And
right.
it's like we can approach stress in the exact same way, and best practices to manage and beat it, right, or cope with it.
Right. And I think in some cultures, stress is like talking about stress and acknowledging stress is a bit taboo, right? And like, or it's like, oh, you're soft if you're admitting that you're stressed, right? In advertising, there was like that badge of like courage for the person who could work themselves to death. And that's illogical because if you're like, if you don't sleep, so I've slept underneath my desk, I've done madness basically in the name of work. But what it did was made me less productive and all of these things that you think, and just overall tired and like hard to be around because I'm grouchy and all of that. But studies show if you actually get the good sleep, you're going to be less stressed, you're going to be more productive, and all of those things, right? So
Yeah.
it's super important, and it's super important that we get the tools. And I'm going to kick off into this story. Like one of the reasons that we this whole thing came about is because I would say like 4 or 5 years ago, I basically had my first panic attack. I was working as the head of search and content at a big global advertising company, and it was a stressful experience. And that first day, that day actually, we were doing this big pitch, and it was just, work was exhausting. But for me, that's fun, right? I love work. Stress is fine to a degree, right? But I never had home stress. So my home life was always amazing, right? But at this point in my life, I was ending a relationship with someone who I lived with, right? So I basically had no place that was stress free. I'd go to work, there'd be stress. I'd go home and be stressed. And what happened is it basically triggered a panic attack, and I passed out and I fell headfirst onto the train tracks on the F train, right? And I basically cut my head open in two places. I broke my leg. I knocked myself out, and I was just basically at the mercy of the universe, right? So I was just considered me dead because I was literally looking to see if the train was coming, like anyone does. And what I realize now, and now I know what it feels like. Heat basically rose up, and once it got here, I was out. I just fainted, and a random guy came and pulled me off the train tracks, right? And I was actually having a chat with Will Reynolds a couple of days ago, who's the CEO and founder of Sierra Interactive, and I was telling him this story, and what Will was saying was like, I couldn't build Sierra again, woo, because all these things happened so perfectly. And I was like, Will, because you give out, like, love begets love, right? So, and hate begets hate. So you're such a good person, you do for others, that you were taken care of. You met this person, this led to that, da, 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 da. You met someone who really, really helped you when you were volunteering at a homeless shelter. Like, the universe gives back. And what's crazy about that is that the guy, so I get home, I'm knocked out, I spend the night in the hospital, they stitch me up, I go home, and home was so bad that I had to leave, and I went back to work. So I had a broken leg. I put on like a blazer. I did like a washcloth, wipe down.
Oh my gosh.
I walked to work, right? So I'm limping like a zombie on my broken leg. I didn't know it was broken at the time, and sort of still in a haze of what happened. And I get this call, and I used to break dance, and it's from a friend who is an amazing DJ. This guy is a beacon of love. He loves to help people. His name is DP1, right? So he loves to help people. And so we're on that spread love vibe and, just be honest, good human being. And he's like, hey, Brisk was my breakdancing name. He's like, Brisk, are you okay? Did you fall onto the train tracks? And I was like, train track? No way. It wasn't me. I don't even know what a train is. Because I was like, I didn't want to tell anyone because one, I didn't want anyone to know because I thought they'd take me off the executive pitch team because I love pitching. So I didn't want them to think that I was so stressed and I couldn't handle the pitches, but because I love pitching. And I was like, nah, it wasn't me. He was just like, well, my friend said he pulled a Lavall Chichester off the train tracks and that we're friends. I was like, yo, that was your friend? Your friend saved my life? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness. And like, it's just a strange way that the universe, like, of the same types of people who would sacrifice themselves to save another person, like, saved me, man. And he pulled me off the train tracks, and I would have been dead if not, because the train was coming. But from that, what I learned is that you have to manage your stress, and you have to. I was ill-equipped to, and I was actually running myself ragged. I was not sleep because And I used to fight bare knuckle. When I was fighting bare knuckle karate, it's like I had an 8-hour job. I was trained for 6 hours, right? And so I wasn't sleeping, and office was stressed, home was stressed. There's no safe place. And so it triggered the panic attack. And since then, what I've learned is I had to go to therapy because of that. So PTSD therapy, because after that, I kept having random panic attacks, which was terrifying because I didn't know what they were, right? One time I thought I had a heart attack. So I looked up, I was like, oh, my face is tingling. And it's like, oh, you're dying of a heart attack. I Googled it. I was like, oh, no, it wasn't a heart attack. I went to the hospital. They're like, oh, you're having panic attacks. I was like, oh, that's great. But the therapy really helped me to give me the tools to make sure that I could sense when it's happening, to build a routine that where, it's okay to be stressed, right? Like that's part of life. But my routine, I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep and I'm still super productive at work. I eat better when I work out. If I'm going to work out my body, I take 10 to 15 minutes to train my mind, to do meditation with the help of Headspace, an app, right? So all these things are so super important because now, one, I have less panic attacks. I'm sort of just naturally calm now. And when things do accelerate, because they will, it's going to be a problem, I'm able to manage it. And then the other thing too is like I have the tools to help people when I see them going through. I was like, oh wait, this is what you should do. I could give advice that was given to me that helped me from a professional. I was like, hey, here's what you need to do, right? And I think it's super important.
So I have so many questions for you on that, because I feel like an experience like that, you use the word traumatic, which that is, I mean, that's the definition of a traumatic experience. But I think for many of us who haven't had a traumatic experience like that, but know that stress is very much alive and in our lives and that we can be better managers of it. Like, did you know that you had a stress management problem leading up to that? And did you have any internal dialogue, or was that it, where it was the moment where you were like, okay, this had to happen for a reason for me to understand that this is something I have to tackle?
Right. So for me, that's a really good question. So for me, I'm a 2nd degree black belt. So the martial arts, that way, and I've been doing that for 13. So I have a natural way of being centered in the face of like terror, right? So like when I was bare knuckle karate, I was fighting dudes who are just bigger and stronger than me, like just like grown ass mountain trolls who are just like wailing on me. And even if you're terrified, because if anyone says that they're not scared, they're lying. So you're terrified, but you just look straight in the danger and you move forward. So I have that, because of years of training, I have that ability. What I didn't have, and that sort of set me up for failure, because you sort of start to think that you're like, you could walk through anything. You could survive anything. And again, it goes back to what I was telling you in the beginning. We're all human. It doesn't matter how successful you are, whatever, how much money you have, how many knockdown championships you've won. That doesn't matter. You're all human. And if you put yourself in the right circuit, the perfect storm, right, of stress at work, stress at work, stress at home, all those things, it's gonna happen. So to answer the question, you and this is why we're doing this, to say like, look, you don't need a traumatic event. Take care of yourself before that happens, right? Like it's the same thing when I tell people about heart attacks, right? Take care of your body so you don't have to have a heart attack to then start taking care of it. Like avoid the traumatic event. Like no one needs to fall on the train tracks. In the history of train tracks or life, I've done it for you guys. So please don't. I highly don't recommend it. So but that's why we're having this, right? And then the other thing too is like the control part. So imagine being like, I was so really good in control and align with my mind and body because I was training constantly. I just lost that. Right? I lost the ability to trust the one thing I had the most. And I think in the pandemic, in COVID, what people have to understand is we don't have control of much, right? Yeah. That's okay. Right? You have to learn to adjust, and it's okay. And then work on controlling the things that you can. But it's okay to be terrified. It's okay to be stressed, but manage the stress and, take it day by day.
And acknowledge it for sure. So,
Exactly. And I think for what I love about you, and I think it's perfect contrast because, some people ask me like, oh, I remember terrifying situations where we may lose a business and like we have to save it and da 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 da. And the team's like, aren't you stressed? And it's like, yeah, but I don't wear my stress on my face. And
I do.
everyone knows when you're stressed, right? But that's okay. Like, everyone's different. So like, I don't want people to be like, oh, like one way is better than the other way. But what I love about you is like, you're like, I'm stressed. And your post basically said it perfectly. It's like, you're stressed, you go through the process, you feel it, and then you breathe and you work through it and you get it done. So like,
Yeah.
I love, like, what's your sort of process? And I think you wrote it out on LinkedIn, but like how can someone else use that and adopt it?
Yeah. So it's so funny because I think this is something that is stress management. It's never going to be something that I think as human beings, we're going to be like, wow, I've really accomplished this. Like I have mastered stress management. It's going to be an evolution. And as our lives evolve, as we move into different stages of our lives, different work, different families,
Mhm.
it all changes. Right. And so it's definitely a learning experience. And I think thus far on my journey, at least, what I've learned is that I am a very expressive person. And so for those for those who work at JumpCrew, they can see on my,
You're excellent at your job because of that, man. You're fantastic.
yeah, I think it contributes. But so if I'm not saying I'm stressed, you can definitely tell by probably my facial expressions. And that's actually something that I've been working on, trying to do a better job of kind of tailoring that and better managing that. But I think that's something that I've really learned that's been helpful is growing up. Um, I think stress and anxiety can have a compound effect on you, right? There's one little thing that happens that's stressful. And if you don't acknowledge that and meet it and greet it and tackle it, the next stressful thing that happens that's maybe not that big of a deal, it becomes a bigger deal because you still have unfinished business with the first trigger that you had, right? And so growing up, my mom actually would use this metaphor on us as kids when we would be really overwhelmed with school, with homework, with friendships, with basketball practice, track, college applications, and those are all stressful areas, but they're all separate to a degree, right? And my mom used to use this metaphor with us where I'm not sure if you've ever done this, Lavall, but those little Easter peeps, you know what I'm talking about, those little Easter
Of
peeps?
course. Yeah.
Okay, so if you put an Easter peep in the microwave, it expands and it expands. It's like a marshmallow. It
Mhm.
expands, it expands, it
Mhm.
expands. And then eventually it explodes and you have this huge mess that you have to clean up.
Yep.
And so my mom used to use that metaphor for us where she would say, like, don't let your peeps explode. Handle your peeps, right? Like cope with this
Yeah,
because it's all of a sudden, one stressful situation can greatly impact another stressful situation because
absolutely.
you just haven't managed it. So something that has just worked well for me is acknowledging when I'm stressed and meeting it and greeting it and leaning into it, really trying to take a deep breath and cope. I think breath is such a powerful tool and mechanism that we can all use. And I'm a big fan of Goop. And so on Goop, they walk you through different. It's on Netflix. The series on Netflix from Gwyneth Paltrow's company.
Mhm.
So Half Breath Method. I think that's so powerful. And you can actually, if you can practice breath and controlling, you automatically that is something that you can control, right? So you feel like you have more gravity and control over whatever situation or hardship is that you're facing. So I think for me, it's been a lot of breath, and I know myself well enough to know that movement is very important to me in my life, and I have to exercise and I have to move my body. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to be a very friendly and patient person. And we were talking beforehand. I did have a workout this morning, and it was fine. It was a solid workout, but leading up to this little session that we're having, I'm quarantining right now with my parents, and my dad locked me out of their condo, and nobody could let me in. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed right now, and I'm about to go talk about stress. But I just sat there and I took a deep breath and I kind of recalibrated. I'm like, okay, this is manageable, and we just needed to communicate, and I got let back into the apartment, so it was all good. But I think it's honestly like, had I not had a workout this morning, I probably would have I would have like blown my top off. I would have been like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this, you know? So for me, breath, movement, another thing that's been helpful is laughter. I know like laughing out loud with my friends is something that I've missed as we've all had to really social distance over the past couple months. And so trying to find laughter in other ways and consuming funny content, that those are all things that have really worked well for me, at least personally, in both, you know, like my personal and work stress.
And how are you, for people listening, especially again, quota, it's just the stress levels peak when you have to hit quota, end of month close. So how do you, so that's how you manage that for yourself. How do you get the teams, right? As a leader, you manage people. How do you get everyone to sort of learn that as well and stay focused and not, flip?
Yeah, for sure. I think we're learning as a group. I'm learning, you know, as a leader too. And something that we have introduced recently as we've been working remotely is Wellness Wednesdays. So every single day we hop on a sales huddle and we're usually going through, you know, previous day's activities, deals that are on the table to close, where we're pacing for the month. And we've had challenging weeks and months, you know, at JumpCrew, certainly in terms of new business over the past couple of months, just with COVID. And so I realized that was what I needed, was a moment to pause with my team during the weekday and have it be okay. And so that's something that we've started doing. And we, on Wellness Wednesday, we all hop on the huddle and we have a guided meditation through the Daily Shine, which is on Spotify, and it's a free app. And the meditations are anywhere between like 6 and 12 minutes. And they all have a theme, and it's something very, very clear that you can tie back to our purpose at JumpCrew, our purpose with work and beyond. But I think for us, that's been helpful, at least to just acknowledge and create this space to say, okay, let's all breathe together. Let's all acknowledge that this has been a challenge for us to be disruptive in working remotely, and, you know, we're not all together. And so I think there's even more to come where that is, right? I think that there's more things that we can continue to learn and do to make that environment be safe, you know, to talk about it. What are you doing anything with your crew on the marketing side?
I think one of the things that I've seen JumpCrew do, just as and we're looking to roll this out, is it's called, you know, you've heard of circles, right? The peer-to-peer sort of learning things that we're doing. And in the beginning, you know, and David Pachter, our executive chairman, sort of is pushing this initiative. And in the beginning, I was like, yeah, to be a good marketer, and especially search engine optimization person, you have to be skeptical. So I always approach these things like,
yeah,
peer forum and great. Now I gotta waste my time for an hour and 45 minutes or whatever and sit down. And as soon as I sat down and I took the time to do this thing, you meet, I think it was like 4 or 5 of people from different groups at different levels. So I'm the CMO and there's people from all over, and you discuss really cool articles and things that you would have never sort of discussed. And sometimes it could be heated, sometimes it could be good. But in my experience, it was really helpful. And I was able to actually bring this topic up, and then that's what led to all of this. So I think doing more of those and taking it to the next level, I think is gonna be helpful. And I think it's a more formal sort of, you know, Wellness Wednesday. But
yeah,
I think what I've tried to do from a management standpoint on the team is just not take things so seriously, like the small stuff. There's like, people are allowed to make mistakes. There's these things that I feel like you're like, "Argh!" Like people get so like angry about, and you could really get caught up with that if like you're the boss and you're just like, why didn't you do this thing? I told you to do. And it's like, come on, it's not like, especially now, what do you like? It's not that serious, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, I try to be a little more understanding and leniently. And what I've learned too is that you don't know, especially in COVID, you don't know what the other person is dealing with.
Right.
Right. So you have to leave room for exploration if they need to talk and vent. And I'm in this room like all the time, every day. Like, so like there's a this distortion that you need to be able to express yourself to the people, even if it's across a screen, because we're not seeing people in real life. So you got to have a little bit more empathy um, right now. And I think that, excuse me, that helps a lot. And
Yeah.
when it happens to me, I really appreciate it, because like no one's perfect.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We've talked about this a lot, Lavall. I think that having empathy more and more, especially in sales and marketing, it's like we are in the positions that we're in because these are high stress, these are competitive environments. But again, now more than ever, even in the way that we're selling to our customers and trying to have conversations around bringing in new business, you have to be
Mhm.
empathetic and lead with that. Because again, we're literally all in this together. Like we're all trying to figure it out.
Absolutely.
So because you're kind of like that metaphor that they use where you're like a duck that's paddling underwater really quickly, like under the water, you can't see that you're racing, but then up top, you are so graceful and poised. And so it isn't necessarily easy to tell when you are stressed out or have a lot on your mind because you're very zen. So
Mhm.
how do you communicate when you are stressed when necessary, right? How do you communicate to whether it is the other executive leaders at JumpCrew or your wife, your family? What's worked for you?
Right. I've learned to be like, guys, I'm stressed. I need some time right now. But there's a distinction, right? There's a distinction between, from a leadership standpoint, where stuff is happening and you just have to be, even if you're terrified, you just have to be poised so that
Yeah.
behind you doesn't run, like, and it goes back to that metaphor in fighting, like with fighting, um because they're all looking at the leader to be like, is he scared? Oh, he's not scared, we're gonna be all right, because they're betting on you. So if you go, they're like, we're all gonna die, that sort of thing. So I understand the moments when I need to just be like, we got this, no matter how
Hmm.
terrified I am. And it's just part of being a leader. That's it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
doing all of the my daily routine and all those things give me the ability to be able to actually do that, even if I'm like extra stressed about something else, right? So that's that one thing. But also when it's just ever like when my peeps start adding up, you like you said, and that's a really good metaphor for this. I basically you have to verbalize it, right? You have to say, look, I need to chill for a second because I'm a bit overwhelmed, and I'll be okay. But or you need to talk and vent and all of those things. It's just honesty, right? Because like
Hmm.
you can't expect anyone to guess, and it's really unfair to take your stress out on other people, especially if you're in a position of power, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's how I do it.
Do you have do you have any experience that you share advice, especially for those who might feel stressed in a specific role, right? Whether you're a sales rep or whether you're, managing specific paid ads or running SEO campaigns for clients. If you're stressed, in your opinion, like how is it best crafted to articulate that to your manager? Is it just having these conversations, scheduling one-on-ones? Is it coming with different ideas? Is it soliciting help? Like, is it truly just the discussion? Is that enough?
Right. I think, yeah, I think I mean, it's really, that's complicated based on your like your work, because some people say they're stressed just to take advantage, right? So let's just be honest. So it depends on your performance and how you've been doing, like how you've been working. One of the things, and we just got a good sort of I call it question to differentiate good stress versus bad stress, right? It's good
Yeah.
to I call it like the feeling in the back of your head, like a sense of urgency, right?
Yeah.
That's super helpful because it
Yeah.
creates a positive anxiety where you're like, I got to get this done,
Yep.
And sometimes you have to lose sleep to get it done and like all those things. And sometimes you have to do that, right? That separates like that is amazing. You need that, in my opinion, to be successful, especially in sales or like marketing and advertising. You know, you're able to do that, right? So know that good stress and cultivating that is fantastic. The bad stress is, you know, things that send you into depression and all of those things. That's not good. But and then so those two things are good. But I think that to answer your question, yeah, it really depends on the person, your track record, and like and sometimes it's also the manager. If a person's like killing it and they make a slip up, one thing that happens is people take on too much. They feel like they have to say yes, and then they mess up, and then they try and hide the mess up, and then they get into this really stressful place that if you would have just said, look, I'm having a hard time, you know, I always kill it, but right now this is what's happening to me. This is what's doing. I know I have this deadline. Can we sort of move it? And based off of this, I need a personal day. Woo. All of that stuff is super healthy. And any good manager would be like, okay, let's make this work.
Yeah. I like what you were saying earlier too, just describing the situation that you were in and that the universe kind of took its course, right? And it's like what you give out, the energy that you put out to the universe, you know, I'm a big believer of The Secret, like that will be returned to you, right? And so I think what I've learned to differentiate kind of my good stressors and bad stressors is my gut and checking in with it. And obviously I'm in sales, and so I love the thrill. I love the adrenaline. I love the rush of having a deal on the line, being up against competitors, and getting the deal on board. And whether it means that I do have to stay up late or wake up first thing in the morning or step outside my comfort zone, I love that. And
You're
that
built
gives
for it.
me
Right.
and it's exciting, right? There is a thrill.
Absolutely.
Yes, there is kind of like a pit in my stomach, but I can feel that it's adrenaline.
Absolutely.
I think vice versa, what I've realized is I become very foggy when for the things that are that weigh heavier, that are probably the bad, more negative stressors in my life. And I think that a lot of that fogginess is bred with doubt. And so when you think about and start doubting and say, you know, am I good enough for this job, or am I good enough to get this deal done? Am I good enough to, you know, to be a leader on the team? Whatever those doubts are, like those, to me at least, they manifest in breeding fogginess. And then I almost end up becoming complacent in a way because I don't necessarily know what to do, right? Whereas vice versa, it's like when I'm feeling it and I have the hype, I am just sprinting in the right direction. But with the doubt, I think manifests that cloudiness and that fog that can then end up becoming this like vicious cycle where you're just constantly almost like negative talking to yourself and questioning if you have what it takes.
Absolutely. Self-talk is super important, right? It's like even like champions talk themselves, visualize themselves to success.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Because it's the track that then you become, right? And you know, that's it. So like you have to have you have to talk yourself up and like, yeah, you got this, and encouragement, like that stuff is super important. And I want to go back to sort of like when the universe takes care of you, that concept. And I'm just gonna put it like I've gotten more business and more sort of opportunities just because the people I've worked with, they trust me. They know I'm not shady. If I can't do something, I'll just be like, yeah, I can't do this. This person can. If I can do something, I'm gonna try and do it 100%. And I'm gonna say good morning. I'm gonna say good night. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna laugh, and we're just gonna have an amazing time together, right? Just being good human beings. There are people who are just they thrive on being douchebags and putting people down and being negative, and maybe they found success in that way. But I think you could be even more successful just doing it the right. And I've been rewarded so much, and I call it the universe, but it's just like it's is random, but I don't think it's random. I think it's
Hmm.
because I'm if you know, a-hole is on this side, and like, you know, just a great human being is on this side, and you just try and push yourself every day towards being just a decent human being, you're going to get a lot out of that, in my opinion, right? And
Yeah.
and people, you know, I feel like the world is full with the other guys, man, and it's refreshing when you meet someone who's not that, who's not like a scumbag. That's what
Yeah.
I just want to be really clear about what I meant. The universe taking care of me, and
Yeah.
you can't tell me that's not true. With some equally acquainted friend pull me off the train tracks, I wouldn't be here. I just wouldn't be here. I'd be dead.
I,
That's not like just conceive that. I would be
I,
dead,
I,
smashed up
I
by a
yeah.
train. Crazy.
It, it's nuts. I know. Like I remember the first time that I heard that story from you, and I feel like every time I have heard it, like I feel like it even becomes more and more impactful because I'm like, wait a second, I'm sorry, what? You were on the train tracks because you passed out due to stress, right? And anxiety. It's just nuts. Um, how long did it take you to get back using the subway? I feel like I wouldn't touch the subway after that.
I got home. I was like, man, I'm just gonna walk like literally 6 a.m. I got out of the hospital. My brother picked me up. We got home. I was like, man, this is still a bad situation at home. I need to get out of here. I just walked back. I like that as a trigger didn't sort of that doesn't like bother me, because I also just didn't know, right? It wasn't the tracks that got me. It was the other thing. I didn't know that's what scared me. What was the thing? What created that thing that made me pass out? That's what I
Yeah.
was like worried about, right?
Did you guys win the pitch?
We didn't win the pitch. I wish I would have said we won the pitch. We didn't, but the whole thing anyway. Like the pitch was just really interesting, but because the people we were pitching, they really didn't understand how a website worked. So imagine you're the head of this digital thing, and you think that the only way you get to a website is from the homepage, not any other pages. So conceivably, we were all confused. We were like, there's so many questions here. You're head of digital marketing, but you think the only way you could access a website is by the homepage.
That sounds stressful.
It's like it just threw us off. We're just like we're so confused. We're like, so then they can't even comprehend our strategy. Where it's like every page is a gateway to the internet, and like you can optimize it for keywords. Like,
Yeah.
no way, bro. So
Yeah.
so it was that, but you know, so how about actionable tips? What are actionable tips? If people are listening here and you want to say, look, you could do these things, what would they be to really manage stress and identify stress right now once we hang up?
Yeah. I'll go first and then I want to hear yours. So I think I think actionable things are acknowledge stress. So number one, meet it, greet it, be aware of it, and say hello to it because it's not going away. And just that first step of awareness will make you a better manager and coper of it. And I think understanding that best practices, there's so many out there, try them. Learn about them, but not all of them will probably meet your needs. So really taking the time and the discipline to trying to figure out what does work for you, I think is important. And I think that I am just such a big proponent of breath and breathing. And I think for me, that's something that we can all do that literally gives us life. And it is something that if you focus on breath and if you inhale, exhale, you're going to feel more control. So I think that those are probably the three biggest takeaways that I'd leave that have at least worked for me.
Awesome. Yeah. And so for me, it's similar, like create a routine, right? Where you're taking care of yourself, right? exercising, you're eating right, and you're getting sleep, right? What I've also done is, now that I'm home, I clean my own space. I cook my own food, because instead of ordering out more, because all those things could be a meditation, right? And if I'm going to work out my body, I make the time in that workout session to sit quietly, and I use Headspace for meditation. And it's not, and what about space is crap you think in your head about meditation, especially like I had to unlearn a bunch of ninja stuff that is not real,
Yeah.
which is crazy. So like they're so great. So like they really walk you through, and you pace yourself. It's not like I gotta sit in a tree and meditate for like 4 years. It's like 5 minutes, like 3 minutes, you build up. And so those two things. And I think like you said, acknowledge stress. That's a big part of it. I think the biggest thing is, if you need to talk to someone, and I feel like everyone does, the best gift you could give to yourself is going to talk to a professional who could help you with this. It is okay. It's like, if you want to get better at your finances, you go to a financial advisor. If you want to get fit, you go to a personal trainer. You want to be healthy, you go to a doctor. Go to a therapist, talk to someone. You will get, when I felt like I was so annoying to everyone else around me once I started therapy, because I was like, guys, I'm in therapy. This is what I learned. I was so excited, and they're like, oh, okay. And I've watched them change in such positive ways, and accomplish so many things that they were stuck on, because I was just like, yo, this is what you should do, and this is what I learned, and then it's just everyone gets better, like a better deal, and instead of like going on some pills or whatever, and all of that. So 2020, the best gift, and we all need it in this environment. Like, the best gift you could give yourself is going to talk to someone who will listen and give you the tools to push forward.
I completely agree. And there's the good news too, is right now more than ever, I think that there's so many resources that are really accessible for everybody to do that. Right. And I think that
absolutely.
And I think especially in high stress environments and in positions like, like sales and marketing, we're whole people, and we have to bring our whole people to work in order to be successful. And so doing whatever you can to work on your whole person, it takes a village. We always say that about getting a deal done. It takes a village, but it takes a village in order for you to make sure that you are taking care of yourself too.
Absolutely. And I listened to this podcast, this VC20. It's about like these amazing entrepreneurs like Peloton. They interview all of them, and the underlining, and I'm talking like all of them, and even the equity guys, the VC guys, when you listen to it, every single one of them, for the most part, had to go to therapy in order to survive the grind that is entrepreneurship, which is a whole different conversation, right?
Yeah.
So it's a survival thing, and it's not even survival, it's a thriving thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To be successful, you need this, right? And I feel like stress is like rain. We all know that, if it's gonna rain, you gotta put a raincoat on. Otherwise you're gonna get wet. And if you're okay, you're gonna get wet, cool. Stress works the same way. If I know I'm gonna go into a stressful situation, I'm gonna take care of myself. I'm gonna, get the tools that I need to make sure I don't get wet.
Yeah. Boom, mic drop. I love it.
Very cool.
Good. All right.
I think this is it, Abby. And just shout out to all the marketers, all the salespeople. You have a special place in my heart. I know end of week close, bro. Just know I'm thinking of you, and everyone who supports sales and supports marketing and supports an entrepreneur who's out there getting it, and providing jobs. Like, bless you all. Everyone, you're amazing. And it's a rough time out there, but we're all in this together. So just spread some love and move forward.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Lavall. This was a great conversation. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Fantastic.
Good. All right. Bye.